Last week, while I was writing my one sentence K-pop opinions video, I included my prediction that I thought K-pop generations would get shorter and shorter. There really wasn't any precedent for this. I wasn't influenced by anything or saw any articles. I was simply running out of ideas to add to my video, and I needed to come up with something quick, and that was the first thing that poured into my head. Come to my surprise, a couple days later after I posted my video, I saw this article on Twitter. Obviously, I was shocked. For one, my silly little opinion in my silly little video was coincidentally proven right just a couple days after I posted it. And two, this meant that 5th gen had only lasted 2 years at the max. I mean, surely cable companies can't blindly claim a new generation has started, and everyone just simply follows along. There must be guidelines. Maybe it's a set amount of years, or at least a checklist for when a new generation starts and the current ends. Right? That's what I'll try to create today. Some sort of guideline to help with predicting when the next generation may start, as well as go over past generations and general theories on how some people estimate generation changes. I've seen a couple of theories and opinions online for how long generations should last. One of the first opinions is that generations should follow a specific amount of years. You know, like 10 or 8. While this would make calculating dates so much easier, it's nothing more than a desire. As we've seen, K-pop generations have a large variation of years. First gen lasted around 7 or 14 years, give or take, from early or mid-90s to the early 2000s. Second gen lasted 6 to 7 years, early 2000s to early 2010s. Third lasted 5 or 6 years, early 2010s to late 2017. And fourth gen lasted around 5.5 to 6 years, late 2017 to mid-2023. While all of them are around the same time limit, we can clearly see it's not precise nor accurate. In fact, they all start in the most random periods of a year. 4th gen randomly decided to start on the last month of 2017 with the debut of The Boys, and 5th gen randomly started in late spring or early summer of 2023. So that scratches out the first theory, but there's a similar theory that may actually hold some weight. This theory states that K-pop generations end once the early gen groups' contracts begin to expire. In other words, a generation will last around 7 years. While this theory makes sense to some extent, and is even supported by most of the time frames I just showed, it's clear that generations are in fact getting shorter, but not by much. Yeah, 5th gen would have started earlier than when 4th gen groups began contract negotiations, but it really was not by much. A year early at max. But if that was the case, why did so many people feel that 4th gen was so short? We'll get into my own opinions on that soon enough, but let's look at the final theory I want to mention. Possibly one of the more popular theories, and even accepted as fact by some, is that generations are decided by the debut of an incredibly game-changing group. I saw this explanation used most when 5th gen started, with people citing New Jeans and their debut as that specific shift in K-pop. Some people even consider New Jeans as a 5th gen group because of this theory. But if this is true, that would mean that there is a generation-shifting group for the other previous gens. And yeah, there is. Well, kinda. The article where I got the timestamps for K-pop cited Sotaji and the Boys as a shift for the start of K-pop as a whole. On the other hand, I'd say SCS was a shift for girl groups during this generation. While there were groups before them, and popular genre-defining groups during, these two are considered the ones to cause the first big shifts in their gens. Okay, but that was easy. They're seen as influential and game-changing simply because they're the first groups to popularize the style, or successfully incorporate and steal styles and systems from the US and Japan. However, this is where the third theory falls apart. At least for me. While it is easier to find genre-shifting girl groups that directly influence many aspects of the following generation's girl groups, like New Jeans and BLACKPINK, I find it a lot harder to find some for the boy groups. Yes, there absolutely are genre-defining boy groups in each generation, like HOT and BTS and NCT, EXO, etc. But boy group genres and music rarely evolve or drastically change at the rate girl group genres do. We tend to have the same, couple of genres that boy groups usually follow, and that has basically stayed the same since the start of K-pop. I rarely see any different boy group genre completely take over like we see in the girl group space. I'd also argue that we've only seen such an industry level shifts that have impacted all groups when it comes to New Jeans and the first gen groups. Yes, we had genre defining and crazy influential groups, but rarely at such a scale as the ones I mentioned. By the way, don't take this as belittling any other groups who've had influence on music and K-pop in general, because I'm talking solely about shifts that have led to new generations. I'm not talking about Twice, who definitely have influenced the third gen sound, nor BTS, etc., etc. I'm talking about levels of genre shifting that have caused a new generation to start. All of that is to say, no, I really don't think generations are decided by an influential debut. At least not regularly, and I definitely don't think it's the sole deciding factor. If that were the case, we could argue for so many groups that may have popularized or started a genre or concept, and we'd be at the 700th generation if it really did solely work like that. So, How do generations get determined? While a bit underwhelming, I think there isn't one single determining factor to when a generation starts or ends, but rather a combination of all the theories I've mentioned so far. I definitely do think companies look at their groups currently active, how long they have left for their contracts, and may even consider genre and trend changes in the industry. But most importantly, companies prioritize market. Remember the article I showed earlier? Well, the article was made in promotion of MA1, a boy group formed from an SBS survival show. Yeah, 6th Gen isn't starting. At least SBS failed to make it start. It was all simply a marketing strategy so starting companies can hold the title of the first group to debut in so-and-so generation. But can this marketing strategy even work? And has it been successful in the past to start a generation? Yeah, it actually has been successful. In fact, this is probably why 5th Gen started a year or two earlier than expected. The strategy of promoting your group as the first group of a generation was seen for none other than ZB1 and the survival show Boys. I vividly remember everyone being extremely confused when Mnet announced this and began promoting Boys Planet as the birth of the 5th generation. This is another reason why I don't consider the influential group theory as holding as much weight as many claim. Because no one was even considering or thinking about 5th Gen starting until broadcasting stations and other companies began using it as a promotion strategy. I think the reason the 5th generation label, stuck on and was able to be carried out was mostly because the generation was going to end soon enough. And also, people just took the opportunity to promote their groups this way. So, obviously, 5th Gen is not ending soon. But a lot of people still consider 4th Gen to have ended way too short and way before than it deserved to be. When in reality, it only ended like a year early. But why do so many people feel it ended so quickly? I have two theories as to why I think some people believe that 4th Gen ended too quickly. And the first one is simply because of quarantine and the 2020 crisis. Those 2 years stuck inside really mess with the perception of time, not just for K-pop, but in general and in all communities. Secondly, I think it's also because we had just gotten a huge wave of big 4th Gen debuts in 2022, with IVE, Kepler, NMIX, SSERAFIM, New Jeans all debut in the span of a year. We were blasted with so much 4th Gen this and 4th Gen that and 4th Gen etc. Simply put, 4th Gen groups had finally gotten a proper footing in the industry. Groups were no longer competing as regularly with 3rd Gen, and in other words, it finally felt like 4th Gen was actually important. Therefore, the sudden announcement of a new generation was bound to confuse many. But if we're being honest, 4th Gen really wasn't that much shorter than the other generation. It lasted roughly 6 years, around the same as 3rd Gen, if not longer. So the start of 5th Gen makes a decent amount of sense. I definitely do think companies are going to start and try to compress generations more and more. I really don't think we'll reach the 2-year limit like SBS is trying to do. Overall, there isn't a super accurate or even a correct way to calculate generations. But with all we discussed today, there are combinations of theories and methods you can use to gauge when to expect the next set of new shiny groups and the 1st Gen group to be plastered on every article for at least 3 months. So to summarize, no, 6th Gen isn't starting next year. And no, 4th Gen wasn't all that much shorter than other generations. Rather, generations are a result of multiple factors. This includes marketing, contract expiration, and maybe even genre shifts. If we want a more concrete answer, I'd say generations last around 5.5 to 8 years max. As you've seen, the model has not really changed all that much since the start. And with that being said, that's going to be all for today. This is definitely a more silly, less serious, and simply me just ranting about a tweet I saw and a topic I've seen passed around. And also me being surprised that my opinion kinda ended up being true. If you like this video, then, leave a like and maybe even subscribe so you get to get notified when I post my next silly little rant on my silly little channel. And yeah, I guess that's literally be it. See you guys next week where I hopefully will be posting the video I've been working on, quote unquote working on, for a while now. But, we'll see. I guess you have to come back next week. Okay, bye.